It all started on a typical Tuesday evening. I had been living with my parents for a while after a tough breakup, hoping to get back on my feet. I thought this would be a temporary situation, just a little pit stop in my life until I found a place of my own. But I guess I was wrong. That night, things took a turn I never saw coming. We were sitting around the dinner table. My dad, who rarely said anything about my life, suddenly looked at me with a coldness I hadn't felt before. "I wish you'd just leave," he said, his voice cutting through the quiet like a blade. His words felt like a slap, but I told myself it was just a passing moment. Maybe he was tired. Maybe he didn't mean it. But when I looked at my mom, her gaze didn't show any support. Instead, she added, "You're a burden, you know. Things were better before you came back." I froze. My heart sank. My mother, the woman who had always been my pillar, was telling me that I was weighing her down? My dad? Well, I wasn't exactly surprised, but hearing it out loud was a different experience. I looked at both of them, and for a brief moment, I considered defending myself, but what was the point? They had already made up their minds. The argument was over before it even started. I didn't say anything. I didn't fight back. I just stood up from the table, silently grabbed my jacket, and walked out of the house. No words, no explanation, just silence. The kind of silence that said everything. As I stepped out into the cold night air, I didn't feel the sting of the words. I felt relief. I didn't belong there anymore. I didn't belong in their world of blame and resentment. So, I walked. I walked aimlessly, with no destination in mind, but with the clear, solid decision that I was done. Done with feeling like an outsider in my own family. I found a place to stay that night. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. No more toxic whispers, no more judgment. But as the night passed, something started to bubble up inside me. Something I hadn't felt before. A sense of justice, or maybe vengeance. I had been wronged, and I was going to make them realize it. I didn't know how or when, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't just going to let this go. The next morning, as I scrolled through my phone, I noticed something strange. My screen was filled with missed calls, 18 of them to be exact. 18 calls from my parents. I didn't call them back. And that's when I realized I had an opportunity here. I wasn't going to sit idly by and let them think they could treat me like that without consequences. They wanted me gone? Fine. But they were going to regret it. I thought about what I could do. Should I just ignore them? Let them stew in their own regret? Or should I make them see the consequences of their actions? It wasn't just about revenge. It was about making them feel what they had made me feel all those years. Invisible, unimportant, replaceable. The more I thought about it, the clearer my path became. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of knowing they hurt me. No, I was going to make them need me. Make them beg for my forgiveness. Make them realize how much they had taken me for granted. I'd start small. Maybe a social media post here, a mention in a conversation there. I wasn't going to go overboard, but I was going to let them see what their life would be like without me. I was going to make them feel like they lost something important. I knew this was just the beginning. They had set the stage for this, and now I was going to take full advantage of it. But just as I was about to begin plotting the first steps of my revenge, something unexpected happened. My phone buzzed again. A message this time, not from them, but from someone else. Someone who could change everything. The message was from my friend, Sarah, someone I hadn't spoken to in months. It had been a while since we caught up, but we had always been close. The text was simple but oddly timed. "Hey, I know things have been rough with your family. You don't deserve what's happening to you. If you ever need a place to stay or someone to talk to, I'm here." I paused for a moment. That simple message hit me harder than I expected. I didn't even know why I was holding on to the idea of revenge so tightly. Maybe I just needed a release, a way to feel in control of my life again. But Sarah's words gave me a new perspective. Maybe there was a way to get what I wanted without tearing things apart even further. I sat with that thought for a while. Was I really going to destroy my family for what they'd done? Could I find peace without turning this into a full-blown battle? I didn't know. But then, I saw the missed calls again. 18, from my parents. The guilt started to creep in. They were calling me, and despite everything, I could tell they wanted something from me. Maybe just to make sure I was okay. Maybe to smooth things over. The temptation to call back was real. I knew if I answered, it might mean returning to the same old toxic cycle. It might mean forgiving them, letting them off the hook. But the idea of forgiveness felt like a lie. I couldn't forgive them for something that deep. I couldn't forget how small they had made me feel. Instead, I decided to take control of the situation differently. I wouldn't answer their calls, but I would send a message. A message that would make them think, make them realize what they'd lost, without me actually speaking to them. I typed quickly, "I won't be coming back. Don't call me again unless you're ready to acknowledge how you've treated me. I'm done being your burden." It felt good to hit send. There was something empowering about standing up for myself, even if it was just in a message. But as soon as I sent it, I realized something. That feeling of empowerment was fleeting. It wasn't enough. The message wasn't going to make them change. It wasn't going to make them regret anything. But that didn't mean it was over. I knew it was just the beginning of something bigger. A slow burn that would have a lasting impact on their lives. And I wasn't about to back down. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't going to make them regret what they did through passive-aggressive messages or social media posts. No, this was going to be much more than that. I wasn't just going to make them miss me. I was going to make them need me. I started thinking of a plan. A plan that would slowly unfold over time, with each step leading them to realize how much I had contributed to their lives. But this wasn't going to happen overnight. It would take time, patience, and precision. I wasn't in a rush. I had all the time in the world. I picked up the phone again, but not to call them. I sent a message to Sarah, the one person who had shown me kindness when my own family turned their back on me. "Thank you for reaching out. I think I know what I need to do now." She responded almost immediately. "I'm happy to help in any way I can. Just don't do anything you'll regret." "I won't," I replied, but deep down, I knew this wasn't going to be about regret. This was going to be about making them understand the price of taking me for granted. The revenge wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be immediate. But it would be felt, and it would sting. They wouldn't see it coming. Over the next few days, I let the silence settle between me and my family. I focused on keeping myself busy, keeping my mind off the calls, the texts, and the pressure to respond. My plan was clear. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. That's exactly what they wanted, me to come crawling back. But I wasn't about to fall for it. Instead, I went about my life, acting like everything was fine. I spent time with Sarah, who was more than happy to let me stay at her place. It was refreshing to be in an environment where I wasn't judged, where I didn't feel like a burden. I started picking up the pieces of my life that had been neglected for so long, things I had put on hold just to keep the peace at home. I felt freer than I had in years. But as much as I tried to ignore my parents' calls and messages, there was still a part of me that couldn't help but wonder if they had learned anything. Did they even care? Were they worried? The thought lingered at the back of my mind, but I quickly pushed it aside. This was my time now. Then, one morning, as I was sipping my coffee and scrolling through my phone, something caught my eye. It wasn't a call or message from my parents, but it was something just as telling. My mom had posted a picture on Facebook. It was a family photo, one of those perfect snapshots where everyone is smiling, pretending to be happy. It had been taken years ago, back when I still lived at home. But what made my stomach drop was the caption she wrote. "Family is everything. We may have our disagreements, but we always make it work." I stared at the words for a long time. I couldn't believe it. After everything that had happened, after the things they'd said to me, she was out here acting like everything was normal, like nothing had changed. I wasn't even mentioned in the post. It was as if I didn't exist. That's when I knew it was time to take the next step. My silence had made an impact, but it wasn't enough. They needed to feel it. They needed to know what life without me really felt like. I decided to start small. I knew my mom and dad had always relied on me for certain things, even if they never appreciated it. Little things, like organizing family events, helping them with tech issues, and running errands for them. Things they probably took for granted. But that was about to change. I wasn't going to be their backup anymore. I started by ignoring their usual requests. My mom, as expected, called me the next day asking me to help her with some tech issue. I saw the call come through, and for a split second, I thought about picking up. But then I remembered everything. The hurt, the betrayal. So, I let it ring. And when I saw the voicemail pop up, I listened to it and deleted it. No reply. No response. Then came the family gathering. My parents, once again, tried to play the role of the perfect family, trying to act like everything was just fine. They sent me a text inviting me to dinner, as if nothing had happened. But they had forgotten something. They didn't realize that the person they had always relied on to show up, to make everything right, wasn't going to walk through that door. I didn't respond to the invitation. I didn't even acknowledge it. It was my first real act of defiance, and it felt empowering. The next day, I ran into my dad at the grocery store. He was picking up some last-minute items for a family dinner, probably trying to get everything ready for the evening. He saw me first, and I could tell by the look on his face that he wasn't expecting to see me. He froze for a moment, then cautiously approached me. "Hey," he said, trying to keep his tone casual. "You coming over for dinner tonight?" I could see the hope in his eyes, the way he was bracing himself for me to say yes, to return to the family fold. But I didn't say a word. I just looked at him, coldly, as if he were a stranger. Then, I turned and walked away without another glance. I didn't need to say anything. My actions spoke louder than any words could that night. I sat at Sarah's place, scrolling through social media again. This time, I saw something that made me smirk, a post from my dad. It was a picture of the family dinner, all smiles, everyone around the table, but in the caption, he had tagged me, almost as an afterthought. "Family is everything, even if one of us is missing." It was almost laughable. They were trying to make it seem like they were the ones who had been wronged, like I was the one who was making things difficult. But the truth was, they had pushed me away. They had made me feel like I wasn't wanted, and now they were trying to play the victim. I wasn't going to let them get away with that. This was only the beginning of my revenge. It wasn't just about making them miss me. It was about making them realize just how much I had done for them, how much they had relied on me without ever appreciating it. And now, they were going to feel the absence, every single day. But what they didn't know was that I was just getting started. They had no idea what was coming next. The days that followed were almost surreal. My parents continued to try and reach out, but I held firm. Each time I ignored them, it felt like a small victory. I started to feel more and more empowered, like I was finally taking control of a situation that had been suffocating me for so long. They still didn't get it, though. Every text, every voicemail, every social media post they put up felt like another attempt to force me back into their world, their expectations. But the best part? They weren't the only ones feeling the strain. I had begun to realize how much of my life had been spent trying to meet their needs, trying to please them, all while neglecting my own. It wasn't just about the emotional toll anymore. There were practical things, too. I had been the one to handle so many of their responsibilities, getting the groceries, fixing the house when something went wrong, even making sure family functions ran smoothly now. As I stayed away, I could see the cracks forming. My mom's constant posts on social media were no longer getting the attention she wanted. The family dinners, once perfectly orchestrated, were falling apart without me there to smooth things over. My dad kept posting these forced happy family photos, but they rang hollow. The best part was knowing that none of it would have happened if they had just appreciated me. If they had treated me like I was a part of their lives, not just someone to be used when it was convenient. I wasn't going to make things easy for them anymore. They had to understand the consequences of their actions. Point one day, I received a message from my mom. She was asking about a family heirloom, a necklace that had been passed down through generations. I had no idea why she was suddenly interested in it, considering she'd never shown any interest in it before. But there was something in her tone that made me pause. It wasn't just about the necklace. It was about a connection, about me, and about what she knew was slipping through her fingers. "I need you to come home. We can't figure this out without you. Please, this is important." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me was tempted to just go home, to settle things, to stop all this tension. But then I thought about everything they had said to me, everything they had done. They didn't care about the necklace. They cared about me doing what I always did, coming in and fixing everything for them, so I didn't respond. Instead, I went to the store and bought a little something for myself, a necklace that meant something to me. I didn't need the old family heirloom. I was starting to build my own life. My own storied it was a reminder that I wasn't anyone's fixer anymore. I was done playing that role. I kept seeing their calls, kept seeing their texts. But now, when I looked at them, All I could think was how much I'd been their emotional support without ever getting the same in return. It was time for them to figure things out on their own. A few more days passed, and the silence between us grew. I wasn't sure what they were thinking, whether they were just angry, or if they were starting to realize how much they had taken me for granted. But one thing was clear. They were feeling the absence. That night, Sarah and I were sitting on the couch, watching some old reruns of a show we used to love. My phone buzzed, and I saw that it was from my dad. I hesitated for a moment, but then I clicked on it. I can't take this anymore. We're falling apart. I don't know what happened to us. Please, come home. I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The moment when they realized that I wasn't just some background player in their lives. I was important. And when I wasn't there, things fell apart. But as I read the message again, I started to feel a bit of sympathy. They were hurting too, in their own way. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a sign that they were starting to see things from my perspective. But was it enough? Could I forgive them after everything they'd said? Could I go back and act like nothing had happened? No, not yet. They needed to show me they truly understood. I wasn't going to walk back into their lives just because they asked. I wanted them to earn my trust, so I sent a message back, but it wasn't what they were expecting. I'm not coming back until you realize how much you've hurt me. Don't ask me to fix things this time. You'll have to do that on your own. It was harsh, but I needed them to know the truth. I couldn't just forgive them for the sake of it. They had to understand the consequences of their actions. The silence between us stretched on, and it was clear they were struggling without me. But for me, that silence was the loudest message of all. It was the sound of them finally understanding how much I had meant to them. And that's when the real revenge began. Days turned into weeks, and I could feel the weight of their silence pressing down on me in ways I didn't expect. The calls and texts kept coming, but each time, I ignored them. I had sent my message, and I had made my stand. The ball was in their court now, and it felt oddly empowering to know they were finally seeing what life without me was like. I wasn't their emotional punching bag anymore. I wasn't the person they could rely on without giving anything back. I started to feel more at peace with myself. For the first time in years, I wasn't tied to their drama, their constant demands. I could focus on what I needed, on building a life for myself. But I also knew that their world was starting to unravel without me. It was almost like a switch had flipped. They weren't the perfect, put-together family they had always pretended to be. Without me to hold things together, cracks started showing. And the cracks, well, they started to get bigger. The real turning point came one afternoon when I received a message from my mom. This time, there was no fake pleasantries. No, I miss you, or come home soon. Instead, it was something much more raw. I need your help. Dad can't fix the sink, and I don't know what to do. I've tried calling plumbers, but no one is available. I don't even know where to begin. I hate to ask, but I'm at a loss. It was a simple message, but it hit me differently than all the others. It wasn't a request for me to just come home. It wasn't even about us having a conversation. It was about them realizing they couldn't fix things without me. They were admitting that the things I had done for them, the tasks I had taken care of without complaint, mattered more than they had ever acknowledged. They needed me, not just emotionally, but practically. And that's when I knew my revenge wasn't over yet. I didn't respond right away. I let the message sit there for a while, letting the full weight of it sink in. My mom, the woman who had called me a burden not so long ago, was now reaching out for help. It was a sobering thought, but it didn't change the fact that they had pushed me away. They had made me feel like I wasn't enough. Now, they were realizing just how much they depended on me. After a few hours, I finally decided to respond, but it wasn't what she expected. I'm sorry, but I can't help you with this. You have to figure it out on your own. You've been telling me for years that I'm a burden, and now you see what life's like without me around. I think it's time you learn how to handle things without me doing it all for you. I hit send and sat back, watching the screen with a strange sense of satisfaction. I didn't feel guilty. Not anymore. For so long, I had been over backward to meet their needs while neglecting my own. They had to understand the full weight of their words and actions. The silence that followed was deafening. My mom didn't reply. My dad didn't either. They didn't know how to respond because, for once, I wasn't doing what they expected. I wasn't running to their rescue. The following weekend, I ran into my dad at the grocery store. He didn't see me at first, but when he did, his face fell. I could see the disappointment in his eyes, mixed with a little bit of fear. It was as if he knew he had crossed a line, but was still unsure how to fix things. He walked over slowly, avoiding eye contact at first. Then he cleared his throat. "Look, about the other day," he started. But I stopped him before he could finish. "No," I said, cutting him off. "It's not about apologies anymore. It's about respect. You can't keep treating me like I'm disposable and expect me to come back when you want me to. You need to understand that." His expression faltered, and for a moment, I thought he might say something to justify his actions, to apologize. But instead, he just nodded silently. "I'm not asking you to come back," he said quietly, "but I want you to know that we're sorry. We've been wrong about a lot of things." It was the closest thing to an apology I had ever gotten from them, but it wasn't enough. "Not yet, I know," I replied, my voice calm but firm. "But words don't fix things. Actions do. I need time. And I need to see that you're not just going to fall back into the same old patterns." He nodded again, a little more resolute this time. "I understand. I just, I don't want to lose you." For the first time, I felt like my dad truly understood what I had been saying. But it wasn't enough to make me go running back. I still needed to see more from them. I walked away from that conversation feeling strange. Part of me felt like I had one, that I had finally made them realize their mistake. But another part of me wondered if they were just saying what I needed to hear to get me back. I wasn't ready to forgive them yet. They had to prove they could change. And until then, I was going to keep living my life on my terms. They needed to understand that I wasn't just going to come running when they called. The silence stretched on for another week, and every day that passed, I could feel the power shifting. They weren't in control anymore. But what they didn't know was that this wasn't just about getting them to understand. This was about me finding my strength, about me realizing that I didn't need them, not in the way I thought I did. And maybe, just maybe, they would finally learn that the hard way. As time passed, and as I focused more on my life and less on their demands, something unexpected happened. It wasn't the grand apology I was hoping for, but the small, meaningful changes began to appear. My dad started calling local handymen to fix the house repairs he had once left to me. My mom began to take more responsibility for her own life and stopped relying on me to run every family event. They were slowly learning how to function without me, and I couldn't deny that it felt good to see them trying. But the real turning point came when my mom called me one last time, a few days after my dad and I had that awkward but real conversation in the grocery store. She didn't ask for help. She didn't tell me how sorry she was. Instead, she just said, "I'm proud of you. I see how strong you've become, and I think we were wrong to ever doubt that." It wasn't much, but it was real. And it was the moment I realized that while they weren't perfect, they were starting to understand me, starting to see me as someone who had a life of her own, with my own needs, my own boundaries. I didn't need their approval anymore. I had learned how to stand on my OW end. It wasn't a clean, fairy tale ending. We didn't suddenly become this perfect, happy family again, but we had made progress. And for the first time, I felt like I was in control of my own life, my own story. As for them, well, they were still learning, still growing, just like I was. But now, I wasn't there to fix everything for them. I had learned that sometimes, the best way to help people is to let them figure things out on their own. And in the end, that was the sweetest revenge of all, finding my own strength and taking back my power. The silence between us wasn't broken completely, but it was no longer deafening. It had transformed into something else, something quieter, more peaceful. We weren't perfect, but we were moving forward, each of us on our own path. And for the first time in a long time, I was okay with that.
Honestly, after reading this story, I can't help but feel a little bit of respect for the OP. I mean, it's hard to walk away from family, especially when you've been so deeply involved in everything. But sometimes it really does take stepping back for people to realize what they've lost, and it sounds like that's exactly what happened here. The whole revenge thing, honestly, I think it's less about getting back at them and more about finding yourself again. OP finally put themselves first, and that's something a lot of people struggle with. But what do you think? Is cutting off family, even temporarily, the right move? Or should OP have gone a different route, tried to fix things another way? I'm curious where you all stand. Drop your thoughts below. I feel like this could spark a really good conversation.